In this video, we'll style our WakeUp Times app. Right now, the app works, but it looks pretty plain. In this video, we're going to learn about cascading style sheets or CSS and how we can use them to style our web applications. So the simplest way that we can add some styles to our application is to go in the HTML page and add some style attributes to different HTML elements. So for example, let's go here for the h1 element and let's say a style and give it something like color, maybe go for purple. And let's save this, refresh the page, and now you can see that the heading of the page is purple. We can go and add a lot of different style attributes here, but somewhat similar to what we discussed about how you probably don't want to inline JavaScript as attributes in HTML. You also don't want to inline styles as attributes in HTML. So in the same way that we could have a dedicated tag for all the styles, for all the scripts to JavaScript, you can also have a dedicated tag for styles, and it's common to place that in the head section of your HTML page. So let's go and do this. We can say the style, and then in here what I want to do is I want to apply this styling. And so what you will need to do is to use what we call CSS selectors. So it's going to look like this. We can say h1 and then open curly bracket and then provide all the styling that we want to apply to that element as key value separated by semicolon. So the h1 here says that every heading 1 element, it's going to get this styling that is specified here. So I can take this out and maybe even change this to something else so we can recognize that the app actually is working with the newest style. So let's go and refresh the page and notice that the heading is red now. All right. Again, somewhat similar to what we did with the script tag, the argument that you can add styles here, but then it's gonna get long, and maybe you want to separate them and modularize them into multiple files. It is considered a better practice if you create a dedicated style sheet for the web pages that you're building. So let's go and create a new file in our project. Let's call this one index.css. So the .css is for CSS file, and CSS is short for cascading style sheets. So it's its own markup language that you would use to define the styling, the look and feel of the application. So let's go and take what I have here inside the style tag, and I get it and dump it into the CSS file. And then you go here and link your HTML file to use this index CSS that you created. Now there is a bit of a difference here. Like if you keep an eye on how the script works, I think it would have been nice if we could apply something very similar to a script. We would keep the style tag and then give it like a src source and say that, okay, index.css is where you would find the styles. Unfortunately, this is not how the linking to CSS files work. Instead, what you need to do is you need to actually use a link tag. So a link tag allows you to link your HTML file to other resources. And a link tag is a self-closing tag. So rather than putting like another closing tag separate to it, you just do this. And so this is called a self-closing tag. Then you need to rather than say that this is the source of it, you would use the attribute href. So this is hyperlink reference, right? And what's more, so you would give it a attribute that defines what is actually this element that you're linking, because you can link all sorts of different things to your HTML file. So you got to say this is a style sheet. So I would argue that line 8 would have been a more consistent, more readable and easier to understand way of linking to CSS file, but this does not exist. So I'm gonna have to take this out, and let's save this, and maybe let's go and change this to something like blue. so that when we refresh the app, we see that it actually works, and so our app is linked into our CSS file. Okay, so let's talk about how CSS works a bit more. So as you can see that I have like a what the terminology when you work with the style files, we call this a selector, a CSS selector. So this like takes the element in the HTML, and then you put all the stylings that you want within this block of curly brackets. So let's go, for example, and apply some styling to the entire body of what we see here, right? So we can go and do something like this. Okay, let's save this. Let's refresh the page, and look how it kind of looks a little different. Notice the attributes that I applied. I gave it a font size. I gave it a font family, so it uses a different font. I specified what background I want. The text alignment is centered, and I gave it a color. This is the text color, the color of the text that you see here. And so if I didn't have this h1 tag here, if I save it and refresh it, then the title is also the same color as this. And this shows something important in CSS, which is you have like styles that you write, they can override the earlier styles that you have. So the body says set this particular color, which I specified in hexadecimal rather than using like a readable name. And then H1 is more specific. It says that even though everything in the body will take that style, I can override that style specifically for an element here. We should make a point that this course is not really about teaching you how to style your applications. So that could be an entire course on its own right, but I'm going to show you some stuff, and as we will build more and more applications, we're going to see a bit more here and there, so that you learn just enough to create apps that look good and modern. So let's go and add a little bit more. I'm gonna override this styling, give it a purple color, add a little bit more to my the line height of my text for paragraphs. Now I want to go and style this button. And so this button, I'm going to style it a little differently. I'm going to add some styling values. And notice that rather than saying button, right, what I did is I used the hashtag followed by the ID of this button. So this is a way of selecting an element given its ID. So when if I were to use something like button and apply this styling, what that would have meant is that any button that I have in this page would get this styling. Now sometimes that makes sense, like you want to have a consistent look for all the buttons that you're using in your application. Sometimes it might be the case that like one button is special to you, it needs to be more prominent, it needs to have a different styling. And if you want to apply a styling to a particular element, not all the elements that are of a specific type, then you can do that by using its ID. So you basically give it the ID, which we already had, and then you use this special hashtag to select that element with the given ID. So let's save this, refresh our page, and this is how it looks like now. Okay, here's another thing that you can do just for fun. I'm going to show you a bit more in CSS. So you have what is called pseudo selectors in CSS, and they allow you to sort of apply some styling to elements that provide further effects. So for example, here I'm saying get the element with the ID of calc button, and then I want to apply some style, not all the time, but only when the mouse hovers on top of it. All right, so let's save this. Let's go refresh the page and see what happens. Now, if I go over the button, you see what happens? There you go. So that's a bit more styling that we can add in here. Okay, so let's click on this, and it generates a bunch of output for us. So what I would like to do is to go and give these items some styling as well. Now, if you look at my index.html, I just have this placeholder to put all of these values in it, right? And then when I go to my index.html and I create all of these, I give them an ID. So let's take a look at like how the HTML actually looks like after we click on the calculate button. These are the WakeUp times, and each one of them have a specific ID, right? So I could get hold of each one of them with their ID and go here, for example, say something like this. So hashtag cycle 1, let's say, and give it some style. Let's refresh this, click this button, and let me see what happened there. Okay, there you go. So so notice that I've got this like nice styling, and this styling is applied to the cycle 1. If I want to see all of them having the same style, I would have to like repeat this for every one of them. And you could do that. You could like say cycle 2 and then refresh this and calculate, and now you have cycle 2. And so you can like comma separate a bunch of different elements. But a better way is to use a different strategy. So sometimes if you want to get hold of a bunch of elements together and apply the same set of styling to all of them, what you can do is you can give them a class attribute. So you can go here, and rather than having ID, right? So rather than having, or in addition to having ID, you can give it another attribute called class, and then give it a name. We can call this something like cycle. And then we apply the same class to all of the elements and then give it some styling. So the idea for class is that it's sort of an attribute that is meant to be applied to like more than one element, and it creates a sort of a logical grouping for you where you can get hold of them in your JavaScript or get hold of them in your CSS file and then work with those elements, all of them that have that attribute. ID is meant to be unique to each element. And it allows you to just get that element and work with it. So let's go here in our index.js, and where I apply this ID, I can duplicate this line and say give it a class, and we can just give it a class of cycle. So let's save this file, and then we come back to our index CSS and say if it has a class. And here is another subtle nuance point, that when you want to get hold of a element with its ID, you use hashtag. When you want to get hold of all the elements that have a particular class name, you use dot. And so now this is everything, every element that has a class of cycle, these styles are going to be applied to it. So let's refresh our page, go ahead and click on calculate, and you can see now I've got all of these WakeUp times having the same sort of a style applied to them. All right, so we've got to style the application a little bit. It looks better than what it was before. There is, of course, a whole lot of room for improvement, and we'll try to polish this a bit more in the next video. But the purpose of this recording was to give you a very brief introduction to what a cascading style sheet is. And generally, when you build your web application, these are the 3 ingredients that work together for all the apps that you see. You have an HTML file that gives you the content and the layout. You have JavaScript that provides the interactivity, the logic, and then you have some CSS files that give you the style and the look and feel of the application.